At the hands of the rebels, the UNSC were becoming slowly overwhelmed by the prospect of losing what humanity had fought so hard to birth. We no longer saw a bureaucratic conflict and instead saw an evolution in the war on terror. Nationalism of the vast outer colonies fueled patriotism and hatred towards the inner colonies. While they fought for freedom from external control, the inner colonies fought to remain in control, as without the outer colonies they would struggle to self-maintain and they'd eventually fall. My name is Token and welcome to the History of the Insurrectionists Part 2. Dissipating the insurrection would be a far greater undertaking than the UNSC initially predicted. The line between civilian and rebel was quickly blurring. Come 2513, the UNSC initiated Operation Trebuchet to root out the insurrectionists and set their militants apart from society, removing the threat and imposing order. This would grow to become one of the largest operations in UNSC history, spanning 10 years and costing hundreds of thousands of lives. Having initiated Trebuchet, fighting broke out in the Eridanis system. Rebels supporting the system's separation from the UNSC built a small navy of civilian craft in an attempt to take over the system. But they were disorganized, and so ex-UNSC Colonel Robert Watts saw this as an opportunity and pulled them together. The UNSC responded harshly, sending a fleet of destroyers and carriers with the hopes of plugging the rebel growth. The resulting battle pitted the UNSC against at least 100 smaller rebel craft, each of which were brutalized with ease. Remnants of this massacred rebel fleet fled into the asteroid belt to the Eridanis Secundus. Here, they would eventually establish a fully functional asteroid base and begin conducting raids again by 2525. A ground campaign also began on Eridanis too, as units from the 9th Marine Expeditionary Force were sent to the planet. Capturing leaders of the rebel movement was of high priority to pacify the population. A battalion commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Ponder created controversy when they were involved in a disastrous mission to capture a high-priority rebel leader, ending in the leader's family being murdered and Ponder wounded, dishonored, and demoted. Eventually, the fighting spread out to the Epsilon Eridani system by 2524. The fighting involved in Operation Trebuchet alone had taken over 1 million lives, most of which were innocent civilians. That same year, a Marine battalion was posted at the colony world of Tribute, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Abwam and supported by the corvette UNSC Bumrush. The battalion attempted to put a stop to the rebel bomb makers near the city of Caspa. 2 special warfare squads led by Staff Sergeants Nolan Byrne and Avery Johnson were involved in an operation that ended in disaster. Byrne's team were killed during a hostage situation at a Jim Dandy restaurant near Caspa City. 38 civilians were also collaterally killed in the bombing. Byrne and Johnson, as a result, were pulled from the system, later being reassigned to Harvest. John 117 headed a Spartan 2 team to infiltrate and capture rebel leader Colonel Robert Watts. They sneaked onto and stowed aboard Layden, a freighter which was transporting resources to the Eridanis asteroids. Once on board, they located a cargo that contained luxury items such as Sweet William cigars and champagne, verifying Watts' presence. After boarding the rebel base, they neutralized the guards in their path and eventually found their way to Watts, sedating him long enough for them to escape with him. Using explosives, they blasted their way out. However, much to their regret, the destruction collaterally killed dozens of civilians. Following the Covenant attack on Harvest and the onset of the Human-Covenant War in 2525, Operation Trebuchet was put to an immediate halt by the UNSC. The Office of Naval Intelligence Section 2 sent emissaries with full disclosure on the alien invasion occurring on Harvest to warn outer colony leaders. This is the first contact humanity had ever encountered with intelligent alien life, coining them the Covenant. Overwhelmed by this advanced and hostile alien force, the UNSC quickly made the offer that they would cease hostilities towards the insurrectionists so long as they were to work together to bolster their planetary defenses. The rebels initially believed it to be a trap, rejecting the possibility of these claims, only to face the unbelievable reality as the Covenant began massacring colony after colony. As the new threat became apparent, many of the rebels, seeing that the UNSC offered the only real protection against the overwhelming Covenant force, ceased to resist and either submitted to the UNSC's control or hid themselves away in remote locations, many of which were eventually glassed anyway. However, not all insurrectionists stopped against the UNSC, instead continuing their aggression long after the war with the Covenant began, using the UNSC's spread out efforts to their advantage. As the war progressed, insurrectionist activity continued to decrease, narrowed down to isolated conflicts such as the incidents just before the Reach invasion. Humanity had found a common enemy. Desperate and fearful after the near-total decimation of the outer colonies which had served as the rebels' bases, insurrectionism quickly became redundant. However, the desire for independence continued to linger on many remaining colony worlds. Using the situation to their advantage, entire colonies under insurrectionist control intentionally cut themselves off from the UNSC's communication relay network, anticipating to resume their operations later on. By 2552, insurrectionist activity on Reach was still common enough for the UNSC to suspect rebel sabotage when a local relay hub went dark, although this turned out to be the work of a Covenant pre-invasion party instead. While insurrectionist activity continued over the entirety of the Human Covenant War, the high-profile operations and major battles which characterized the early years all but subsided. Any engagements between the UNSC were now covert missions carried out by special forces. Many rebel operations were disrupted by the super soldiers in Blue Team, for example. As a result, the generation that had grown up during the war had no knowledge of the insurrection's persistence and considered the entire Civil War as having occurred long before their time. After the end of the Human Covenant War, many insurrectionist movements which had ceased their operations during the war began to resurface. Following the ceasefire, the UNSC began attempts to broker peace with the surviving outer colonies. Fleet Admiral Hood embarked on a diplomatic mission to discuss reconstruction. A number of colonies refused his offer and cut all ties with the UNSC as they felt they had been abandoned during the war. Many insurrectionist cells were also able to acquire copious amounts of Covenant and UNSC weaponry and equipment circulating on the black market, making them far more formidable than they ever were previously. Of major significance in the post-war era was the rise of the new colonial alliance, founded by rogue UNSC Admiral Matthias Drake, which in early 2533 attempted to hijack the newly commissioned UNSC Infinity. In this attack, former Spartan 4 candidate Ilsa Zane and her NCA combatants staged a mutiny on the vessel and managed to briefly seize control of the bridge. The attack was foiled, however, by Spartan forces aboard the Infinity, and the boarders were all killed or captured, leading to the UNSC's discovery of the new movement's existence. As of 2558, the movement remains active and is becoming increasingly militant with an attempted attack on the UNSC during a peace negotiation between the Brutes and the Sangheli on the planet of Yalin 4, stalling the peace process. Later that month, Captain Daniel Clayton of the NCA sought revenge against Fleet Admiral Terrence Hood aboard the UNSC Infinity for the loss of his father, Captain James Cutter, and the UNSC Spirit of Fire decades earlier. With the help of Vada Gadget's mercenary faction, he ambushed the vessel. Utilizing a Covenant station's glassing cannon, Clayton managed to cripple Infinity, murdering many of the flagship's crew. However, Spartan forces quickly responded, saving the Infinity by succeeding in killing Vada Gadget and apprehending Captain Clayton. With Daniel Clayton captured, Lord Hood visited him in his cell, querying Clayton about the intentions of the NCA's leader, Admiral Drake. Clayton only told Hood the NCA was stronger than before and had agents on every colony, before being shipped to Midnight Facility on Hood's orders. And so thus far, the insurrectionists have failed to end the UNSC's hold across human space. But can the UNSC still be called oppressive? Or has the interactions with other intelligent life brought humanity closer? With many insurrectionist factions dissipated and synergized with the UNSC, the remaining forces lie in hiding, with the NCA taking the crown as the most prominent. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to let me know who you think are the true evil here. Are the insurrectionists truly the bad guys, or are they simply fighting against the shackles they were placed in by the UNSC? So anyway, my name is Token. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you next time. But before you go, if you want, I got a channel here where I'll be posting all types of videos about all types of games. You can check out this video. It's about Fallout 4. I teach you how to play. In the future, I'll be posting videos about Halo, so you can click the page, maybe fun, get some popcorn or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you later.